Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Hey, Bob. How are you?
We are on a streak of not recording these in the morning, but we're making it work.
Evenings are not bad. Evenings can work.
Which one do you prefer?
Morning.
Yeah, I think I do as well.
Yeah.
Yes, it is what it is.
Yeah, kick off the day, get the brain juices flowing, but is what it is. Time is not ours.
I kind of like because I can record in the morning, and then hopefully I can get the video uploaded.
Oh, if you're doing that, all
Like
the
work
extra
on
work
the
with it, yeah. It's
thumbnail,
just one
a
more
little bit.
thing for another day.
All right, let's get into this one because I want to kind of keep going book first, then we'll get into New York sports because things are looking up a little bit for the first time in half a year that we've done this. Old Man and the Sea, my first Hemingway book. We did a short story, which was The Hills of Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
Called Snows of Kilimanjaro, I believe it's called. Okay, this novella, short novel, was published in 1952. It was
Say
Ernest
52
Hemingway's
or 62?
52, 1952.
Okay. Got it.
It was the last publication he released while he was alive.
Right.
And
I knew that, but I thought he died later. I guess maybe he did.
and I'm guessing with the way that was phrased, some stuff came out posthumously.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So this is the last one that I actually wrote, but then maybe they found short stories and stuff like that. Yeah.
Bingo. The Old Man and the Sea is a short novel that tells the story of Santiago, an aging Cuban fisherman who has gone 84 days without catching a fish. Determined to end his unlucky streak, he sets out alone into the Gulf Stream and hooks a giant marlin. A fierce 3-day battle ensues between the old man and the powerful fish, testing Santiago's strength, endurance, and spirit.
Yeah, that description is interesting. That is an accurate description of the story, but it's not an accurate description of the book, I would say.
It's a description of the text.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There's a lot about the boy in the text.
Yeah.
That's um, him wishing for the boy relating to the old man relating to the boy.
Boy being his former shipmate, his former protege.
First mate, yeah, bosun. I think bosun's like a very nautical term. So have you read this often? Have you read it before? Are you familiar with it? Is this like one of your treasured works?
Probably closing in on double digits read. Because
Yeah,
this is one if I was like, especially when I used to commute, if I was in between books or I didn't get a book back from the library yet or whatever it was, and I needed a book for a day, this was a book for a day because I could read it in 2 hours plus, whatever it was.
yeah. You could start it on the commute and finish it by the time you got home.
Finish it by the time you're back. Yeah. Yeah. So I've read this a bunch then.
I think this is one of the stories that a lot of guys are familiar with but may not know, and I was certainly in that category where I was like, oh, the old man in the sea, the old fisherman goes out, and it's quest for the big fish. And I knew the ending, but I will say I read the Hemingway library version, and they ruin the outcome in the first, introduction where they're like, hey, this is manuscript was written in Key West and in between Key West and, Havana or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where there's, we'll get to it later, what marine life is around there. And I was like, oh, I knew that, but I don't know if I remembered it. And I just wish they didn't include that in the opening intro of the work I had. But it didn't spoil it because I knew what was happening. And I was like, oh, as I read it, I would have known.
But it was spoiled a little bit for it then.
Yeah, and we'll get into it because this is a discussion, not a review. The marlin gets eaten by a mako shark, a bull shark, as it gets pulled into port. and the old fisherman loses his catch.
Like half of it or 3/4 of it.
I think he loses a lot. Like the tail and the head is all left. Is
I think the last thing he said was, I think the last thing he noted about it was that that one, he said something along the lines of that one took more than half.
yeah.
The
Well,
way I the way I
he doesn't
picture
bring it
the way
in.
I
He doesn't.
picture it is that he got left with nose to, before the back fin. So if you think about it, he's like dragging it on the skiff. You got to think like
In the
75%.
water alongside.
Right. So like 75% of that is done in the water. Part that's hanging out is probably just like head and top. Like if you go to a fish store and they chop the head off a fish, it's
Yeah,
kind of like that piece was left. So maybe not the meat, but the head.
I think he might even lose more of it because he doesn't even bring it into dock.
He doesn't what?
He doesn't bring it into like the fisherman pose of like bringing a catch in
Oh
to
yeah.
get butchered. He doesn't bring it in to get butchered to sell
I
because
think I
tourists
think
walk by and they're like, "What is that? A carcass of a shark?"
a carcass. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. It's more of like that. I still thought there would be a head with
I think there's a head and a little bit of tail, yeah, but not any meat to
No,
sell
not
at
meat
the.
to sell or anything like that. No, but I think he didn't take it off the boat more just because of the exhaustion and the fact that he just probably couldn't look at it anymore because he felt so bad. All those things.
Yeah, well, he comes in the middle of the night, and then the story ends with dawn the next morning when he's woken.
Right,
He's the
and
boys
he's
fetching him
just
a
getting
cafe
back
au
to
lait.
hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um. So one thing that I surprised me about this book, it's not as depressing as I thought it would be. The
Honestly,
the,
yeah, the only
the
part that
main
was depressing, I would say, was that the fish gets eaten, which is kind of weird.
yeah, but he's not like super. He's not super elated when he catches it. Finally, when he finally pulls it in, and
Right.
he's not devastated when the sharks start eating it. It's a lot
Yeah.
more like this is the way that the world works,
Right.
and I couldn't pull it in, and like there's a lot of foreshadowing. If when he cuts his hand, he washes it off in the water, so there's blood in the water. He kills it in the water. He kills a dolphin and drops the guts, so that's obviously chum in the water. So obviously he's not shocked when sharks show up.
Um, Definitely not shocked that sharks showed up because I think he even said something along the lines of, "I hope they don't come," but knowing that they will. And then when the first one came, he knew that all the other ones are coming. As soon as the first one came, and I think he killed the first shark, he knew there was going to be a frenzy at some point. And at that point, he's just trying to get back with as much as he can.
And he knew how far he was out.
Yeah, yeah.
But so in along the lines of how borderline uplifting it was, he goes, this I highlighted the final quote, but I'll read the full passage. But I killed the shark that hit my fish, he thought, and he was the biggest dentuso, I guess it's a type of shark, but Spanish,
Mhm.
I had ever seen. And God knows that I've seen big ones. It was too good to last, he thought. I wish it had been a dream now, and that I had never hooked the fish and was alone in bed on the newspapers. But man is not made for defeat, he said.
Yeah.
A man can be destroyed, but not defeated.
Yeah, that quote from the first time I read it, that's something that always is just in my head. I always think about that from time to time. That
It's
is
great. It's a great.
that is that is the quote of the book, and that might be one of like the top Hemingway quotes also.
But you can definitely tell that Santiago, he's old. He's like in his mid 80s. He's an old fisherman.
Oh yeah.
Um, I wish it had been a dream now, and that I never hooked the fish. That's very sad. I
Yeah.
wish he never went through this at all. But he
Yeah.
has another turn of it, being like, I'm destroyed but not defeated.
Yeah, I think of a theme is highs are never too high and the lows are never too low, kind of thing. You have to stay in the middle as best you can. So you can't get elated when you catch the biggest fish after 84 days, because whether sharks get it or you don't get a fish tomorrow or whatever it is, it's just that lifestyle is just, you
Mhm.
can't get too high and can't get too low.
It's got to be so hard not to get super high when you haven't caught something for 84 days and you catch the biggest fish of your life and you battle it for 3 days. I would
And
be
it's
like so pumped.
interesting. I didn't think about that at all. Yeah, I thought of that. This is more of on his line where you're out there for 3 days, you're holding this fish on your back for 2 nights. I would be like, I wish this was a dream and I could just wake up and didn't have to be here right now.
Yeah, because what do you do at that point? Do you like just chop the line and just let it have the
No, that's
let
another
go?
theme of the story is like you just have to suffer through life. Like life is suffering. You just have to grin and bear it and get through it.
I said,
This is kind of part of it also. Whereas if you assume that this is one of Hemingway's later stories, which a lot of people do, so he was probably at this point pretty depressed, maybe
yep.
suicidal at this point also. So you could feel that throughout it, where it's not like hope is lost, but it's just, I'm exhausted, I'm tired. There's really nothing to strive for. There's no highs to shoot for that could kind of get me out of this funk.
Yeah, I mean, I just like have. There's so many quotes like this. Pull. This is to Santiago talking to himself. Pull hands, he thought. Hold up legs. Last for me, head. Last for me. You never went. This time I'll pull him over. Like
Yeah.
he's just exhausted for so much
Yeah.
of the book.
Yes. I do like the way he, because I've done this too, the way he, because he's alone and he's been alone for
Yeah.
a long time and he's out to sea. It's a very lonely thing. So he talks to his body parts and he's
Yeah.
trying to talk to his left hand, which has a cramp. It's basically
Yeah.
saying, you can cramp now, that's fine. But if I need you later, I'm just going to cut you off.
Yeah, right. Loosen up. You'll loosen up in time. You'll loosen up. Work for me. My
Yeah.
man.
I'm glad he didn't go into too much detail because he was a fisherman. He was a big time
Yeah.
fisherman. I didn't need like too specific details. I thought it was perfect. Like, I understand that a fishing line will cut your hands. I'm glad he didn't go into like gory, gruesome details about that.
Well, I also don't think it was like a rope. It sounded like a rope that he was pulling on, but at the end of the rope, it was attached to a line that like he would bait and throw into the water. So he wasn't pulling in like a microfiber, like
Fishing line,
filament line.
but whatever it was,
Yeah,
it'll crease. It'll make a crease in there.
yeah. If you pull any cord with tension on it for long enough, they'll rip your hand up.
It'll burn. Yeah, but I didn't think of it as like a rug burn. I thought of it more of as like a
Incision.
thin incision.
I think he's. I don't know, because he's coiling the rope in the bottom of the boat, or
And
like
that's what goes out. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I think it's either way. It doesn't really affect the story how you.
No. But my point was that you could tell he's suffering, but I didn't need like the biological details. I didn't need to know that he was bleeding throughout and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was perfect and just he's suffering. We can't even imagine his suffering, but he didn't try to force that detail too much.
Yeah, like I have it highlighted. Like what he said about his hand cramping. What kind of hand is that? He said. Cramp then if you want. Make yourself into a claw. It will do you no good. Like he's just worn out. He's old. He's been
Yeah,
doing
I mean, you could call it.
life
I
of
guess
the
you could
ocean.
call it like old man stubbornness, also a little bit. But you're just rooting for this guy so much. He's just everything that you want your elder to be.
Yeah, I don't think he has a good nature about him, and I don't think he's stubborn. He's just worn out, and
Yeah, I don't think he's stubborn either. I think he just accepts life and accepts things as they are.
he's definitely working hard. Could he work smarter? He needs a cleat. You know what the cleats when you bring a boat onto the dock and you just wrap it around those
Yeah. Oh, and just
prongs
let it line on that.
and just let the
No,
fish
I think that's
itself
the whole.
out.
I think that's the whole point of this. Like maybe if he was a newer age fisherman, he had like technology and stuff like that. But no,
Uh-huh.
if It's just with his hands and his back, and the only thing that he said that he wished he had was salt,
Salt,
limes,
lime for the fish.
and a better knife
Yeah,
because
he
he's
loses he
snapped his
loses the
knife
knife and the
once.
harpoon, which is brutal. Well, you know when he loses the knife, you know
Yeah,
when he
that's
loses the harpoon, he's done, and then when he attaches the knife to the oar, it's like, okay, this isn't gonna
yeah.
work.
The salt and the limes is a little comedy in there, which I thought was funny because he's in the middle of the ocean and he's like
It's
desperate for
gallows
salt.
humor. It's awesome. Yeah, that's a great
Yeah,
line.
it's just such a slap in the face.
Yeah. Um, Also, little comedy in there. How about all the quotes about if Joe DiMaggio would be proud of me if I.
So that's the piece of it that I love. I think is funny also, but I want to know more about that. Like, did Hemingway know Joe D? Did they like hang out? Did he know of him? Because they probably crossed paths, you would think, being in that generation, but maybe
Yeah,
not.
post. Yeah. I don't know, but DiMaggio's like
Humble.
a. I don't think you would say he is the you know synonymous with God, but he's definitely trying to impress DiMaggio
Yeah.
so he can hear Yankee games on the radio in
And he doesn't
Cuba.
just say he says a lot. He says the great DiMaggio. So he's putting like a godlike persona to Joe DiMaggio, which I think a lot of people did. I mean, he was kind of
The
larger
guy
than
bagged
life.
Marilyn Monroe,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I'm very curious. I wish I could hear more about that. So, like, what was your not obsession with Joe DiMaggio, but like, why did you decide that this Cuban fisherman was a huge Joe D fan and idolized him?
yeah, but I think the great DiMaggio would be proud of me today. I had no bone spurs. like, like
Right, the
DiMaggio's
bone
no
spurs
bone
thing. It's
spurs.
just like I don't know, never had a bone spur.
But then she's also like, I'm so old, but maybe I do have a bone spur. I don't know what a bone spur is really. It's just like you can tell
Yeah.
this guy's like a, destitute,
Yes.
sunburnt fisherman, and it's phenomenal, just his way of life and outlook. But is it reasonable to think that someone who knows about this book thinks it's like a tragedy about a man losing the catch of his life at the end of his life to sharks because he doesn't have the strength to pull it in, and it's kind of like you almost reach the mountaintop, but you fall, you know.
You could spin it. You could definitely spin it that way. But I feel like if you can't, because the whole story just leads up to him being salt of the earth, probably doesn't even do it justice. But this guy is just, that's all. He is the salt of the earth. I mean, he brought on the boat to go fishing one water bottle, you know,
Yeah.
and he's so modest with the things like you. Yeah, I guess you could spin it that way, but I wouldn't because I think it's just described so well.
Yeah, it's not even spinning, but like from
And
the outside
he does
looking.
get satisfaction. He does get some satisfaction out of it in that the head came back and they did measure it and they said it's the biggest marlin anyone ever saw.
Yeah.
And the way that the kid was talking about him to other people, like, yeah, he's not going to get rich off of it, but his legacy is now intact forever.
Yeah, I think from the outside looking in, you would think, oh, here's a story of a man elderly man who's poor, loses his catch of his life that would have made it money, would have made it famous, or would have put a great culmination of his fishing career, and loses it because he's too frail to pull it in and bring it back to shore. But it's not a depressing story. I don't think. I don't think you
No,
really can. I think it's like a triumph of the human spirit of like I did the best I could. Just because I lost doesn't mean I'm defeated. I think it's a really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
It's
you could
very,
definitely make the case that he was destroyed, but he wasn't defeated in the end.
it's a very optimistic book under dire circumstances for someone who is suicidal to write.
Yeah,
Because I would
yeah, yeah, but there is a bit of this
tragedy.
is as it gets. Yeah, it is. There is some, and not just the losing of the fish being tragic, but the fact that he's alone, the fact that he's suffering, the fact that he's doing this kind of to make a living and to keep things going. Like all of that adds into it. Not just the loss of the fish, but everything else.
in the last line, up the road in his shack, the old man was sleeping again. This is the morning after everything's
Yeah, yeah,
happened.
yeah.
Okay. He was sleeping on his face, and the boy was sitting by him, watching him. The old man was dreaming about the lions. And that was a very interesting, culmination because there's only mentioned a couple times that he, spent some time off the coast of Africa and saw,
Hmm.
the powerful young lions. And is that like saying, "Oh, wish my for my youth and when I was a young lion," or was that like that's his the way he kind of still sees himself as being that young lion, still going out there and doing him with
Or
what he
you,
has? Yeah.
or if you're gonna go out, you go out like a lion, kind of thing, right?
Correct.
Like
Yeah.
it's your end, you end it like a lion. Yeah, yeah. I think a big part of that also is that, yeah, Hemingway seemed a big hunter, big Africa guy, was just kind of
Obviously. Yeah.
obsessed
Yeah.
with nature and wildlife. So that makes a lot of sense that he put that in there.
I love the writing style. I didn't like everyone says Hemingway's so sparse. He's so you know curt.
It
I
plays
thought,
here.
yeah, it's great.
It
It's really
plays
it's really
very well
enjoyable.
with the story. If you made this story drawn out, it would lose so much. The fact that it was sparse and humble, it lines up with the character so well.
It's and things that I like about books that more than others are probably like I love a good foreshadowing. I love a good like, hey, here's a
Mhm.
little nugget. It's gonna pay off later. That's why I'm a big Game of Thrones guy. I like the nuggets that George leaves in those books, and I think it's pretty cool when he's like watching the bloody hand in the water, the guts is going in the water, so you can kind of see, there's a little crumbs in there. What's attracted to blood and guts and water is sharks, and that's where
Yeah,
obviously.
that's interesting.
Do you think he did
Yeah,
it intentionally? Or do you think he did it unintentionally?
no, I think he knew what it was doing. So blood in the
Yeah,
water equals sharks. But I think he was doing it because if you cut your hand, like this is what a fisherman would do. A
yeah,
fisherman would put his hand in the water and maybe he would row a little faster or something like that. But
yeah,
that's exactly what he would do.
yeah. I really liked it. I thought it was awesome.
I'm glad.
It's a quick read. Highly recommend. I mean, you can
Yeah,
finish it.
this is another this is going to be high up on my list because this is a you're sitting on the beach, you got an hour, maybe you're spending a weekend there, you could kill this in a beach weekend, no problem.
Yeah, you can kill on the flight down there,
Yeah.
and it's not like crazy narrative where it takes twists and turns and there's
No.
new
No,
characters.
you
It's
see in and out. You could peek your head up to look at the waves and stuff and bounce right back in. You don't have to be uber focused on it to get the gist.
yeah, it's not one of those books where you have to reread the last four
No,
pages to figure out
God,
what's
no.
going on. It's not like
No.
what is it, the World's
Quite the
End.
quite the opposite. You're probably reading this book and then you could like look up and just think about things for a little bit and then jump back in.
Hand fishing with that line would just be tough. Pulling a marlin in with your hands on a
That's it,
cord,
man. I mean, so yeah, that's
brutal.
strapped to his back.
Can you imagine how weathered his hands would be? Because
No,
he's
yeah.
worked cords and ropes and lines and lures and hooks for 80
I
years.
always think of this because I'm not too much. I always try and think of like this, like if you picture his boat, you picture like a big canoe, right?
I'm picturing like a lifeboat with a mast, almost
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
like
Okay.
a big lifeboat with a mast. Because there's a sail.
Yes.
I think that's what he's got. I mean, the marlin is larger than the boat.
What more? Yes. And he said it was, and he did. He said something I think towards the beginning when he's going out and he's
Hmm.
passing some of the other boats. I think he did mention something about the other boats with something that they had that he doesn't. Whatever it was, it made it seem like he's got like a little dinghy compared to other fishermen.
Yeah, and he's out there for 3 days he's catching the food that he eats to keep going. It's great. It's a
That's
great
cool. That is very cool too, where he's catching fish,
off
holding
this.
lines, skinning them, eating them. That's yeah, that's pretty cool.
I but all these fishermen they know how to tie knots and
Oh yeah,
work the lines. But like, how can he not? He's like figuring out how do I sleep for 2 hours holding this line.
right. You're
I'm like,
saying you think he could put the line down, like tie it to something?
I think you could do a knot around the mast at
But what if
least,
what if
maybe.
the marlin then took off and like snapped the mast? Like the whole point of having it in your hands, I think, is he could give up line. Like
Yeah, I think
he
he's
could
he's
give
he's
out line.
totally working he's totally working the line the whole time.
Yeah, definitely. And part of the process, yeah, is and that's kind of interesting that Hemingway obviously knows about. Like the fish will come up, and that's when you know you got them because they take in air,
Yeah.
and that way they're going to be a little higher, and then you can
Yeah,
start
they
kind of
they, ex-
playing
they
around.
expand their lungs. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And,
It is
yeah,
it is cool. There's like a lot of like fishing tidbits in there too.
yeah, good, yeah, very interesting fishing tidbits.
Okay. You want to do grade now, or you want to save it for the end, and we'll
Yeah, let's
talk?
do grade name first. I think I'm assuming we're both pretty high on this. I'm looking at the list. I mean, I've already done. Yeah, this is a 10. So this will be my third 10. All right, that's not too bad. We're reading good books. What can we say?
I think we're reading many Naka books with like a couple stars in there.
Yeah, we've thrown that in there. Yeah, yeah. Well, this isn't like the NBA dunk contest where everybody gets a 10 for
No, no, no.
everything.
Your last three scores have been a 4.3, a 3.2, and a 4.0.
Yeah,
4.0
maybe
is
that's
not
part of
great
it
for
too.
average. 4 out of
It's good
10.
to be back. It's good to be back to the classics.
Yeah. I'm not. I'm gonna give this. It's super short. Like it's like.
Compared to because of that, also compared to the other books we've read, like how soon would you pick this up and reread it?
Oh, it would have to be probably. I might put Plum Island. I can't get it higher than Plum Island. I like Plum Island so much.
Come on, yeah, that's right up there.
It's going to be right in between Plum Island and Casino Royale, which is I'm thinking 9.1 in my head, and that's
Yeah,
between an 8.8 and 9.6.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, this Old Man the Sea is such a like. All right, we just read it last week. If I have to read it again next week, no problem. I would do that.
Oh yeah. It's. We're gonna do more Hemingway. I liked it. It was really good. It was really really good.
So much better too, because a lot of people say, well, I don't know if a lot of people do, but at least I remember in school, people said that his best writing is his short stories. I like this so much better than the Snows the Kilimanjaro.
Um.
You loved that last scene in that book, which I did too. That was a good one when where Death was on the end of his bed.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
But
I like
I
the symbolism
this
and
to
all that
me,
stuff.
this to me is very good. I haven't read his like other books.
For whom the bell tolls. My dad was like, read For Whom the Bell Tolls. My
For Whom
dad's
the
loving
Bell
this.
Tolls,
I don't
yeah,
know if he
or
listens, but he likes knowing the books we're reading, which
uh,
is like, sure.
Movable Feast, Sun Also Rises. I read
Yeah.
those a long time ago. So down the road, we'll have to do one of those two.
Oh, we'll do them both. We'll do them.
But this one is one that I come back to all the time.
Also, shout out to the guy who plays Hemingway in Midnight in Paris. Phenomenal actor. Killed it.
Yes, very
He's
good.
so good. This is such a fun couple scenes.
Yes. Yeah, I thought
Um,
that was. Yeah, I do. I thought that was very, very good.
okay. Well, I guess we'll do touch on the Yankees and then talk about the Knicks.
We could touch on the Yankees. It is May 20th. I think now is a reasonable time to touch on the Yankees.
The season started.
Yeah,
They were up 1-0 when watching, but
two
they
nothing.
just beat 2 out of 3 of the Mets over the weekend, and they should have won 3 out of 3.
Yeah.
They're 5 games up in the AL East.
Mm-hmm.
Judges pulled off a little bit, but everyone else is playing well. Bellinger's heating up. LeMahieu's back. Bellinger's playing well.
Oh no, definitely. But you said everyone was playing well.
I mean, who is
Can't
your whipping
remember
boy?
last time a person have a
Who is your number
resume.
one? Who is your number one whipping boy for the Yankees right now? Whipping boy is the guy you can't do right in your eyes.
Grisham / Volpe.
I thought you were gonna say Grisham was so hot 2 weeks ago. Yeah, Volpe's the right answer.
He's not an everyday player in a like a playoff team roster. Like I don't care what they keep trying to do. He's not a number 2 hitter in a playoff team's roster.
I saw someone saying like he's a top 5 shortstop in B WAR. I'm like,
Who, Volpe?
yeah.
Yeah, you could give me any stat, and he could be the best shortstop ever with that stat. I watch baseball, and he's not.
He doesn't put the ball in play enough to utilize his speed.
If you have somebody on first and second with 1 out, 2 outs, do you want Volpe coming up to the plate? No.
He's not getting the guy in. He's not getting the guy in. He hits
Don't want him.
no sack flies. He
No.
hits
He's striking out on fastballs, not good. He doesn't, and I blame the Yankees for this. He doesn't put the ball in play.
He
He
doesn't.
doesn't
He
put the
doesn't.
bat on the ball, and I blame the Yankees for that because after his rookie year, during his rookies, I mean, they tried to make him a home run hitter, which was stupid. Yeah, no, he's probably 1A or 1B on my whipping boy list right now.
Yeah, Devin Williams don't love, but I can't put a real setup man as my whipping boy. Like
No, because I still think he's got. I mean, he's shown it
he's
before.
talented.
Their bullpen could be sick if
With
it's
Loizaga, Williams,
Loizaga.
Weaver.
Gosh, that 7-8-9 could be awesome.
It just kills me we don't have Cole this year. If we
Yeah,
had
no,
Cole,
that's what I keep coming back to. That's the biggest thing for me.
I know.
Like I'm not excited about this team because I know that the ceiling is short.
I know.
Because we don't have Cole. If we had Cole, I would have been much higher on this team than last year's team.
I know. I wasn't high on last year's team. Last year's team wasn't that good.
I wasn't that high on last year's team the entire year, but they made it.
It was I.
This year, if they had Cole and
Freed is so good.
Yeah, those two
He's
at the
so
top
good.
of the rotation, I thought could have really made some noise. So that's just going to be upsetting all year.
All right, let's go into the Knicks for a little bit. I watched my first Knicks game of the 2024-25 season. They're good. They're fun to watch. They're good. I like them.
That was a fun game. I mean, I envy you for that being your first game because every other game of this playoff series has been brutal to watch. So frustrating besides like 3 minutes here, 2 minutes here.
I like Brunson. I don't know what, because I don't really follow Knicks like social media fandom. Like I obviously know like I root for the team, but I don't follow the pulse of the team as I do with certainly the Giants and the Yankees, and then to a lesser degree the Rangers. How do the fans feel about Karl-Anthony Towns? Because I like Hart and OG Anunoby way more than these flat-footed threes that Karl-Anthony Towns takes in inopportune times.
So there are fans, so fans who love him because he's their big man and they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. There are basketball fans who are Knicks fans who don't think he's a very good player.
Yeah.
Specifically for defensive purposes, number one, and number two, he has no. It's unbelievable. He's 7 feet tall and has no post game. Al Horford was beating him up on the post so much so that he wouldn't catch the ball anywhere near the paint, and that's part of his game. But yeah, I'm not a big Karl-Anthony Towns fan.
Yeah, I like these. I obviously Brunson's very impressive, and I've heard about him. You know how I've actually watched some of his games while he's been a Knick, but I like Mikal Bridges too. He was fun. He plays well.
He's kind of
my game.
He's kind of my guy. A lot of people have been hated on him because they gave up so much to get him. But I was very, very excited when they did get him. I thought he was kind of the missing piece. He's shown it in flashes. If he can do it consistently, then we kind of have something.
Creates his own shot, like makes the right play.
He can create his own shot anywhere. He's kind of a unique player where he can get a shot off anywhere because he's so long, he's so lanky, he's got range. He's just been inconsistent, streaky, and he hasn't really been confident a lot. I'll also say I'm not the biggest fan of the coach. I don't think he puts Bridges in the best situations to be confident all the time.
Interesting.
Like if you watch the games, it's a lot of Brunson dribbling on top, somebody setting a pick for him, and then you get OG and Bridges kind of sitting in the corner waiting for a free or a last second pass. I think Bridges kind of needs to be at least sometimes more of a focal point.
More sort of, yeah. I mean, the game I watched from opening tip to triple zeros was them absolutely waxing the Celtics. So
I was nervous. I was nervous the entire time. I was nervous completely the entire time. I think the first quarter ended with the Knicks on like a little run where they were up 5 or 6 points at the end of the first quarter. That little run put me at ease because if not, I thought Boston was going to make it a low-scoring game and they were going to stay in it the entire game. But that helped.
They played very poorly in that game. There was Al Horford's taking a chart like a offensive foul when out of a timeout when they need a bucket. Like, dude,
Yeah.
you're a 15-year vet. You can't be.
Yeah, they lost a lot of their pizzazz late in that game, and then they just started kind of chucking threes because they had to. And obviously, they didn't have their best player.
Yeah.
One of their best players.
Oh, he's their best player for sure, Tatum.
I agree, but a lot of people would say Jaylen Brown might be.
I'm not super blown away by him or when I've watched him play.
I agree.
All right, next book, The Big Sleep.
Yeah, I started it.
I have it from the library, so that'll be good. And then I have a book after that, speaking of DiMaggio. There's a very good David Halberstam book called The Summer 49 about this baseball season, post World War I America.
Yeah.
David What?
Did somebody do a I don't know why that sounds so familiar. Did somebody do like a 30 for 30 special or like a Yankeeography or something like that?
Maybe. I thought it was the season that DiMaggio had a 56 game hit streak, and Ted Williams hit over 400, but that was actually 1941. But this is Summer 49. Look into it. I don't want. I'm bad at picking books, so you let me know if you want to do it or not.
That sounds good. I mean, we're right in the middle of baseball season. I think the timing of that's pretty good.
And
heading into the summer.
Yeah, we'll do 2 fictions, and that'll be a nonfiction book, and the guy just passed, so it's kind of relevant.
Yeah, cool. I'm good with that.
All right, cool. All good. Old Man and the Sea, highly recommend. That's probably the easiest book to recommend to people. Old Man and the Sea.
Yeah, I could recommend it to anyone and everyone.
That or Plum Island's so fun to read.
I'm trying to think the first time I read it. Was it in high school? I don't know. But yeah, you could read that kind of any time too. It's good.
Yeah. All right, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, good stuff. See ya.
Thank you.